Hello, folks. We'll get started in just a moment. Put a link to our agenda in the chat. So if you could, please mark your attendance.
Sure. Hey, Colm, how are you?
I am doing very well. Thank you. How are you?
I am as well. Also, Roy is also from my team in Legit.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
We'll get started a few minutes after the hour.
Is that the right agenda notes?
It
I was just looking at the title.
should be,
Okay, got it.
because I'm lazy. I don't make another Google document, so I'm using the best practices.
Oh, I got it.
doc.
I got thrown off by the title.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I've posted a link to our agenda in the Zoom chat. If you could please mark your attendance. We'll get started in just 1 minute. We'll do a round of introductions, talk about our purpose, and then hopefully get down to business. Okie doke, it's 3 after the hour. I would like to welcome everybody to the new little sub project here around source code management best practices. We're going to be making a new guideline document based off of some of the efforts of GNOME and Legit Security. So I would love for us to do a round of introductions so we can all just get to know each other a little bit more. I'll start. I'm Krob. I do stuff at the OpenSSF, which stuff would be a lot of working groups. And my day job is I work at Intel as a director of communications for security. I will pick Dan to talk next.
Hello, I'm Dan Applequist. I work at Sneak. I'm director of open source and open standards stuff there, and I'm very supportive of this work, and I'm looking to see how I can support and add value to this document, and let's get this done.
Who would you like to talk next? Dan picks Christine.
Thanks, Dan.
Sorry, I missed that. I missed the first part of what you said. So I just, never mind. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So,
yes. Christine, please speak.
Yeah, Christine Abernathy, and I am with F5 and the Open Source Program Office. And just kind of like, it's an interesting topic to me, especially around GitHub management specifically, because that's what we use, but definitely here to learn. So I am going to pick Sergio.
I'm Sergio. I work at CSUMB, and I came here to learn about best practice for open source project, since I contribute to some like other open source projects. And I pick Jay.
You guys are killing me softly now. You get me right in the middle of a set. Yeah, trying to come. I'm on my phone. Any case, this is Jay White with Microsoft. I'm all over the place in the OpenSSF. A lot of working groups, do a lot of things, but one thing, a couple of things that are near and dear to my heart is source code management. I had the pleasure of doing a lot of audits and a lot of audits and a lot of advisory projects around source code management, and not surprising to the people on this call, but to those who would be surprised at a lot of the crazy that goes on in organizations around maintaining their source code, and et cetera. So I'm here for it, and I'm ready to rock. Did you guys hear me?
Jay picked to talk next.
Oh, snaps. Oh, snaps. Randall, where you at, Randall?
All right, I can do it. I'm Randall. I come from Gen 2. I'm also involved in SKF and now involved in LF. And I, like Jay, do a bunch of stuff around OpenSSF. I'm pretty much everywhere. And yeah, pretty much that's me. And to go next, Abhishek.
Thanks, Randall. So yeah, I'm also in the car.
Are you in the same car?
Nah. So yeah, I'm Avishai. I'm with Microsoft. I'm involved with the best practices and the education working groups. Software engineer, so much of my work is with source control management tools. So I'm really keen on getting to work here. Is there anyone next? Is there anyone else? Noam.
Thanks, Avishai. I'm Noam from Legit Security. I'm a security researcher. I'm leading SCM best practices here at Legit. And I will pick Roy. Will be next.
Thanks, Noam. Actually, he's also far from me. So yeah, I'm leading the research here at Legit Security, and the topic of SCM best practices is really close to our hearts, and I really hope we'll be able to provide a lot from our insights on this topic, and I'm sure we will get a good project out of this topic. So I'm quite optimistic. Yeah.
Excellent. Did everyone get a chance to introduce themselves? All right. Well, next up, we don't have any opens yet since this is our first meeting, but could I ask someone on the call here to help assist taking notes for us so that those that couldn't attend? Thank you, Dan. Oh, and we have one more new friend looking to join us. Jonathan, would you like to introduce yourself to the group?
Is this the best practice? Wait, what working group is this? This is the best practices one, right? Or is this a new group?
The best practices group, but this is the source code management best practices guide sub project.
Okay, interesting. Hi, my name is Jonathan Leishu. I am an open source security researcher currently working for the Linux Foundation under the Open Source Security Foundation. No, other way around. But anyways, yes. And I'm part of Project Alpha Omega as the security researcher role. So, yay. Former first Dan Kaminsky Fellow.
Excellent. So that should be everyone. Welcome, friends. As always, these meetings will be recorded so that if someone missed the call, they'll be able to look out on our YouTube channel and watch a meeting happen. Very exciting. Long term, as we move forward, I'm going to look to one of our working group collaborators to potentially try to co-lead this effort for us. Our collaborators are listed on our GitHub repo page. And those are folks that have been long-term with the working group, have demonstrated their enthusiasm and participation. I would just like to have those folks try to help shepherd things so I don't have to end up running every single thing. Would be super groovy. So think about that. Anyone that is a collaborator, please consider that. Let's talk about the project.
Somebody should hire you to become the full-time runner of every single OpenSSF meeting across the entire organization.
If they can afford me, I'm not opposed to it.
I know. Can we also get can we carbon copy you so we can get two of you so that you can like run like the meetings that are dual booked on the same hour too? Or do we maybe we just need to get you a Harry Potter time turner so you can go back in time and co-chair the meetings that are now overlapping one another.
I don't know. I think one of me is more than enough, but thank you for the praise. Let's talk about the existing guide. Noam, do you want to talk about the project that you started and that we're looking to contribute and will be the basis for this best practices guide going forward?
Sure, thanks. So can I share my screen? You can just show the GitHub repo.
It's the little green button on the bottom of the Zoom window.
Perfect. One sec. So basically, we've developed an open source tool that scans, currently it supports GitHub and GitLab, and find many misconfigurations and security issues from our knowledge in the JIT. So we have this tool, and also we created this database of policies. So this is the repository in GitHub. We have some demonstration over here. You give it a token and what to scan. It scans like the entire organization and shows misconfigurations in the repository level, server level, GitHub Actions, collaborators, and etc. And we also have the database over here that lists all of our policies to date. So we have some nice content over here. It's you can see it's divided by the namespace, so we call it namespace here. So there are actions and members, organization, repository, and runner group. And we also have this for GitLab. So this can be a good base for this working group. We can generate some, we generate this content automatically. So we have this structured YAML that we can share, and we can take the info from there to make it easier. Yeah, I think that's it.
All right. If you could drop a link to this repo in the agenda, yes, that'd be great.
Sure.
So what questions do we have right now about the tool and about where we want to get started?
Just a quick comment, because I actually, as I said before, I actually use this tool to kind of help me go through our GitHub and figure some things out. So I found it pretty useful. But so just kind of like a shout out to that.
Very nice.
Thanks. Great to hear.
So from a content perspective, do we think that we want to drive the content of whatever this guide is from rules from a database, or do we think that it's better to take a snapshot of what these rules are, bring them over into a markdown, and then work on it from there and iterate on the markdown? Because I can see advantages to both ways of working. One of them, the advantages to the first way is that you only have to change something in the database in order to affect a change in the document, right? So you auto-generate stuff based on that. The advantage of the second one, though, is that I think the document could become more readable. So if we expect people to like join our journey by reading a document which is like educational material, then we want it to be kind of welcoming and with some explanatory material attached to it, and organized in a way that kind of makes sense for when you when you're working your way through a document like this, and so that's where I kind of want to get to, or like from an editorial perspective, I think that would make sense. And I'm just trying to think about people coming to it from that perspective rather than coming to it through the tool. So I guess one of the questions that I have is, how often do the rules change? Do we, what do we all think about that? Are these the right questions to be asking? Yes,
I think so. We definitely need to decide as a group how we want to collaborate together moving forward, and ultimately what type of artifact or artifacts we want to deliver out to the community. I see merit in both approaches, Dan, pros and cons on both sides. Being a double English major, I personally prefer the latter. Education person, I'd like to see a beautiful document with pictures and links, but there's nothing to say that we couldn't go with the former. It's really just kind of up to the people that want to contribute to this group, what you're interested in collaborating on and kind of what we want to deliver as a team going forward. Christine.
One thing that was useful because when I was consuming this doc is, again, just having to kind of click on each one of those to try to figure out, for whatever it is that I was interested in, what I needed to turn on and off, what are the pros and cons, and in a nice readable way. And also what would be useful is that kind of keeping in mind of who is the audience for this doc. Let's say I'm coming at it from, I am an open source maintainer, what should I be paying attention to? Or I am somebody who's managing or administrating the GitHub org, what should I be paying attention to? So for the different audiences, what are the things that we need to kind of have on? And also for the policies, how can we customize it and make it easy? And then after that, post we've set it up, how do we continuously monitor and manage it? So those are some of the things that I found would be useful.
Randall, you had your hand up next.
I know that there are some other tools that do similar functions. So at some point, I think it would be nice to do or compare and contrast what we do versus what they do. I know there's some other tools that right now are very popular, but I think, well, at least from what I've received, probably because of what I received a lot of stuff about like finding people's secrets on their GitHub. But I'm pretty sure that's the other way around. So, but I think that might be useful to like perspective. Especially seeing how we're OpenSSF, and I know that's something that.
Go ahead, Roy.
Okay, so I just wanted to, oh, sorry. Just wanted to add that, first of all, if we're talking about secrets, for example, it's another thing that we can definitely add to the best practices guide. We were more focused on the configuration aspect and settings, like various settings that SEMs provide you with. And with regards to the database, so the way it's currently maintained with Legidify is with Rego files, and it's maybe Noam can share how it looks like, but this is something that's very easy to maintain if we feel like it's the idea behind using Regal files was so that it would be easy to contribute to, so that people will be people could easily add new policies, and it includes a few parameters for each policy, like what's the threat behind each policy, with severity and remediation steps. So all this data is stored in those textual Regal files. So I don't know if it's something to consider, but just so you know.
Thank you for that. Avishai.
Thanks. Just circulating back to what Dan said, maybe we can separate the presentation of the document, right, consumption of it, from the actual maintenance of it, and have some kind of process to publish a markdown file once changes are made to the database, if that is a possibility.
So Randall, sir.
I kind of like what Avishai was saying. I was also going to add, maybe first it would be good to determine like what the scope of the tool would be, because, you know, there's a lot of other stuff out there, and if we don't need to necessarily take care of it, then we shouldn't.
I think it'll be important for us to set some long and short-term, very clear goals, what we want to do. There's a lot of things we can do and potentially could do, but I think we'll be more successful in achieving something if we state, you know, we will focus in on a thing in the short term. So, you know, short term could be documenting a process to update the database, or creating a consumable document that describes all the good practices for a source code, securing a source code management repo. So I think as a group, we should decide on kind of what our goals and objectives can be, and then we can kind of prioritize them and start to zero in on what we want to work on first, next, and then future.
I think one benefits of using the tool is that we are working on it as our day job. So we are creating new policies and researching these SCMs and adding more policies. And this way, the document could be more updated with the recent discoveries.
Maybe we could focus in on this goals thing, and that could help to get us moving. I think that this is about configuration primarily. So I actually think like secrets, which was mentioned earlier, I think that might be out of scope for what we're trying to do here. And the you know, other things that are like source code repository best practices, like putting your license file in a certain place, that's kind of already taken care of by the scorecards, you know? So like, it feels to me like this is stuff that we haven't talked about in other places yet. And to me, like, two-factor authentication is the thing that I always use as the poster child. It's obviously not the only thing in here. That would be a pretty small document, but to me, that's what I use when I talk to other people, like within my company, about why we should get it, why this is going to be an important effort. And so I think we should try and put the focus on configuration, and that would. So I think the statement that you made, Crow, about we will focus in on creating consumable document that describes the practices for securing a source code management repo. If we added something about with a focus on configuration, then I think that we're good to go.
And there's nothing to say we couldn't expand or write additional things in the future, but I think it's good for the group to have kind of 1 to 2 goals that we can all kind of get behind, and we're more likely to deliver something in a timely manner as opposed to trying to work on 8 things at the same time. So does everyone agree, or do you disagree with what Dan said about maybe starting off with a document, focusing in on those configuration items as kind of the theme of what we want to deliver first?
I agree.
Any other thoughts or suggestions, counter or in support?
I just have a quick question, Roy, for you. This scanner that you currently have, as it is, can only be run with elevator permissions on the repository. This is not something that anybody externally can run this scanner against a project. They have to be an admin, correct?
Yes, you need to provide a personal access token to your organization.
Okay.
You need to be, if you want to scan your entire organization, then you need to be an owner. If you want to scan only a certain repository, then you need to be a maintainer of that repository. That's the minimum.
Okay, all right. The reason that I'm asking is Alpha Omega is always looking for additional scanners to scan repositories to like find common misconfiguration vulnerabilities. So if it was something that anybody could run, it'd be useful for us. But I think that it's less useful for us because we can't run. We're not going to become admins on every single project across the internet, unfortunately. So yeah, but thank you. Thank you.
Well, I would counter that, Jonathan. Isn't Alpha and Omega typically like a consultative engagement where you're working with the maintainer or project? So potentially you could use this tool in concert with the maintainer. Maybe the maintainer might run it on your behalf and share the output, potentially.
Alpha, not Omega. Omega is wide projects. So yes, for Alpha, Omega, because we're building working with Yesnia, we're building a portal for researchers like myself and others to have aggregate results from a bunch of different scanning tools, including CodeQL and a bunch of other tools that are all running against repositories. We're looking for tools like this one to be able to give us a signal of this is a common security vulnerability that we can fix across the entire organization or of these repositories. But if you need, understandably, if you need admin level permissions on those repositories, we're not going to be able to get that information. So, but yeah.
Dan.
What's the status of the Legitify? Because I know that has Legitify or have you all worked? Contributed or suggested to contribute that work or that database into OpenSSF as itself, or is that I'm just a little unclear on what the current status is.
Can you clarify what do you mean?
Sorry?
Can you clarify what do you mean?
I'm just thinking, sorry, because we had a bit of a discussion about driving it by driving the document from the database or taking a cut of the database and writing a document. And I'm just trying to think if there's, I think the first option only makes sense if the database is an OpenSSF database, right? Versus being a database that's actually owned by some entity. Do you see what I mean, or am I wrong? I mean, to me, and again, I'm coming back to how I'm kind of thinking about this and how I think it would be most useful for people is if they are coming to a document that, or, you know, there's a document that can be distributed, or it's at the end of a URL that it's a bit like the concise guides or the other best practices material that then contains a lot of links off to here are the things that we think you really need to think about. Here are the rules, right? And here's why they're important. And then here are the tools that you can use, you know, that are provided by OpenSSF members, which help you help you keep to those. So anyway, sorry, that's kind of what's behind my question. I'm just trying to figure out, right, well, what's the best way forward.
So
go ahead, Noam.
Can I answer this? Like what we suggest, because I think I didn't clarify enough how the database looks like inside the LLT file. Basically, we have the policies inside Rego files in the source code, and we have an automatic process that takes them and creates from them YAML and Markdown files. Now, there are two options. One is to, sorry, I'm trying to show you. It looks like this. This is the Rego files with the policies. What we saw in the GitHub pages, description, title, thread, and all the data. We take this and create YAML and then generate GitHub pages from Markdown. So we can either take this data and move it inside an OSSF repository. And we can do it like whenever we create new policies, and then to compile something that is more easily consumed, because I don't think for now that you want us to move the entire tool into OSSF, and correct me if I'm wrong. So I think the process is to generate these policies, move them to an OSSF repository, and then compile them to something that is more consumable and what we want to generate eventually.
Can I ask, just out of curiosity, what would be required? Say we eventually decided we want to use the GDFI as is in the OpenSSF. What would it require? Like, which modification would be required to use it as an official OpenSSF tool?
There is a process for donating intellectual property and software. And I can, if we want to go that route, I can share that with you gentlemen. There's like a talk with LF Legal and others, and probably your legal team and whatnot. So there is a process if we want to go down that route. I'm not suggesting we go down that route, but that is, potentially an option if you guys are interested in doing that, or if the group feels that very strongly they want that done. Did that answer your question, Dan?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see two others on the queue.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Jay is next, and then Randall.
Yeah. So what that will before we jump into the real technical parts of this, my suggestion, I guess, in this regard, is to take a step back and make sure we ironed out our why. What is our intent in producing this guide, right? When the person picks up the guide, what are they going to get from it? What are they not going to get from it? And then what are they going to get from it? What are they not going to get from it? And then ultimately, what's our intent behind the guide to begin with, right? So we're producing, we're producing this guide. in order to provide the reader or something the ability to do X, Y, and Z so that they can avoid this, right? So that everything that comes after that, you know, if they're avoiding whatever we told them they're going to avoid, hey, we win, right? And of course, that allows us to expand and contract the scope of the document, right? So we can say, well, what about these things? And then we can put that stuff in the intent, but then what gets created from that is the ability now to make sure we're focused throughout the technical portion of the document with the tools and the services that are provided towards making sure they have the outstanding source code management. And so please somebody ask. I said a lot of words there, so ask a question if you didn't understand what I would, or if it's not understood what I just said. I'm in the middle of a working set here, saying this stuff, so I'm rambling at this point, trying to get my blood to my brain so I can verbalize the stuff the best I can. Please ask questions.
Questions for Jay's statement?
I actually was going to say something very similar. So.
I think what we need to do is start with a markdown and start like mocking up what we think that we want this document to look like and how we want it to read. And I'm totally willing to contribute to that effort. If in that process we start to feel like, you know what, we could strip these bits in to this document automatically through a YAML process or however, then I think that makes sense. If through that process we determine, you know what, actually we need to reorder these things, there's an awful lot of editorial work that we need to do, maybe it makes sense to maintain it separately from the but sort of, you know, triggered by changes to the source files, then so be it. But to Jay's point, I think if we start with the document and you know, we'll try and put the focus on that, then we're going to end up with something. You know, right now there's not a lot to focus on. I mean, there's a lot there. There's a lot of great stuff there. I'm not downplaying the work at all. I'm just saying let's try and come at it from the perspective of, we want to produce this document. Let's figure out what should be in it and what the headings are, what the emphasis should be, and who the audiences are. To Christine's point about who are the different people that are picking this up, and what do we want them to get out of it.
So I think that is a good next step, Dan. So what I might ask is that maybe Noam can get us an output of the YAML file into our repo, and I just created a folder for us. Wait till the typing is done. If you could do an export of the current data into this folder, that would be super groovy. And then we all, the trials and tribulations of group editing the same document at the same time. So if you could do that this time, and maybe we can start to talk about that next time. I also put a suggestion in. We might want to make some user stories to kind of help shape what we're looking to do. I think there's definitely the maintainer perspective. How can the maintainers take actions to protect themselves? There's the potential for an open source consumer, maybe. As an open source consumer, I need to understand the security posture of how software projects I use store their software. So maybe we can just kind of iterate on a couple things like that as well. additional thoughts or feedback?
I see from the perspective of who this is aimed at, I see OSPOs as being one of the key kind of like constituencies for this, right? Or organizations that are trying to get with how do they engage with open source communities, and so I think that we just need to think about what those roles are, and maybe we need to that's another thing that could we could have that as a README in that document, or sorry, in that folder.
Mm-hmm. That sounds great. So first homework is, Noam, please get us that export into the folder. Second bit of homework would be for everybody, think about what personas or what type of roles we want to address. And then if you have any user stories attached to those personas, that would be useful to kind of help steer that. And then we can all, as a group, kind of chew on that and decide what we want to address immediately and what needs to go into the backlog, so to speak. Those sound like two fair actions for our next 2 weeks. Are there any additional things we would like to kind of consider in the interim until our next call, or anything else we want to talk about specifically today?
Do we want to narrow down scope? Again, that could be something that's in the README file.
Mm-hmm. It will definitely need to be in the README file. And I just have a stub in there. I'll get some organization put in there, some sections we would like to get into the README file. And then as folks are interested, go ahead and submit PRs to get it updated as you have ideas. And then we can either use the README as the source of truth, or if it's particularly dynamic, we can use this or another Google document as we're iterating over what the final scope and personas are, and then ultimately house it in the markdown file. As you can see, there are some opportunities co-editing a document at the same time. Any other thoughts, questions, desired outcomes for our next call? All right, and then a third piece of homework is going to be, we'll be looking for someone to help co-lead this effort. I will put a cattle call out to this group and the whole BP community. And I need to update the best practices repo with some new updated attendance information. But so we will take a look at the exported YAML markdown file, think about personas and user stories, and then consider who is interested and has the time to be able to help herd us along this path.
Quickly, for the volunteers, do you want the answer now or later?
If you really want to do it now, great. If you want to take some time and ponder, feel free. We can make that the first agenda item next time, if anyone. So ideally, we have a couple people that are willing to help wrangle the efforts, so that way no one person's overly burdened.
Okay. Yeah, I'll think about it, but I am interested.
Okay, great. Awesome. Randall.
Real quick,
Also-
Crow, I know that we
also
have a lot of different personas floating around in different user groups. At some point, are we gonna like archive those so that if like or anyone wanted to reference them? Because I know we have a set at SKF, and I know there's another set at end users. So
the personas I typically use are from the Vulnerability Disclosures Working Group. They've been published for several years now.
Yep.
We can definitely alter and add to those. But they tend to be very high level. So they're not going to have anything like a repo or an org admin, but they would have open source maintainer or open source consumer. So we may need to either add on to those if we want to, but there is no move yet for an organizational wide library of personas. Maybe once I actually finish a project, I can
I get you.
that windmill.
Yeah, I get you. I was just mentioning it because I know that there's like a few around. Should people want to maybe reference different ones?
Yeah. If you're in one of my working groups, I always source the vulnerability group, but I'm open to being persuaded to use different sets. And then again, we can always augment and add on specific use cases and specific views if we need to.
Yeah. We should definitely let John know because I know he has some really good ones in end user.
John and I will be talking this Friday.
Awesome.
I will share that with him. And his personas are typically concerned about the consumer and supplier personas.
Right.
Kind of the buckets the end users typically falls into. But we'll talk about that with him Friday.
Right on.
All right. Well, thank you all. I appreciate your time. I think this was an excellent first call. Excited to see this work continue. And if anyone's interested in talking about Vex, I'll be firing up the Vex call in about 10 minutes. Have a great day, everybody.